Hello, I'm Neil Gibson, and I'm the course leader and senior lecturer at Robert Gordon University. On my day-to-day job, I oversee the running of the BA Honours Social Work course, but I also run an online course in therapeutic photography. And what I'd like to do today is just briefly introduce you to the course, talk to you about what I teach on the course and why I teach the course, and also a little bit about the developments in terms of the future of the course. It's important to say that I'm home working at the moment, so I will probably be using props around the house to illustrate what I'm talking about, and there may well be a few interruptions from my other household guests. I first started to look at therapeutic photography when I was looking for a subject for my PhD, and I came across this practice of using photographs in therapeutic settings. And I wondered to myself whether this would be applicable to social work. So that was really the start of my journey. And as I was investigating therapeutic photography, I began to realise that there were gaps in what professionals were delivering in practice around therapeutic photography. Now, before I go on, it's important to make the distinction that I'm talking about using photography with groups of people as a facilitator to help them explore issues. What I'm not doing is working as a counsellor or therapist with photographs to link sort of deep meanings into the photograph. The photographs that I'm using are much more about a catalyst for communication, and they are initiated by the participants of the groups. So as I was working, I realised that I needed to develop a programme myself to give me structure in what I was looking at. And when I did that, I realised that there was potential here to share this with other people. So I started to run a CPD course, a continual professional development course in Aberdeen for practitioners. And that was really popular. I ran it over 2.5 days and looked at the techniques involved and the theories involved. And what then happened was I was getting more and more demand as the course became well known, and people from all over the world were contacting me to ask if they could come for the course. And I don't know if you know where Aberdeen is. It's really the top end of the UK. It's not the most accessible place. So really to come up for a 2.5 day course was a lot of commitment. So I started to look at other alternatives. And so I arrived at the option of delivering an online course. And we're now in the 3rd year of the course, and we've had participants from all over the world. And since we're homeschooling at the moment, I'm going to use this opportunity for a geography lesson. So my 8-year-old son is going to show you where the participants have come from. So UK. Belgium, Netherlands, good, Norway, Italy, good, USA, good, Canada, good, Australia, and Brazil. Excellent, you get your dinner tonight, well done. So to do the course, students will apply, and if successful, they will be invited to enrol onto the course. Now, I did consider various options for how to deliver the course, and because it's a very visual course, we're uploading photographs, we're discussing photographs, I thought about using some of the existing online forums such as Facebook, Flickr, Instagram. But because of the academic weighting behind the course and the material that I put on, and also issues around confidentiality, we actually just use our own system, our own Moodle system from within the university. And it's okay, I wouldn't say it's fantastic, and I think if I was able to design something myself, I would make something much more easy to interact with, but it serves its purpose. So all the material is uploaded onto Moodle, and the students can access this at any time. It is a 12-week course, and Moodle is structured so that you've got the administration area, you've got the assessment task with some useful guidance, and then week by week the material is delivered for the students to dip into, to watch the presentations, to then contribute to the discussion zones, And I also upload additional reading material for the students to use at any time they want to. So as I say, it's useful, it serves its purpose, we contain it in the university, but it would be good to have something that was easier to access for the students and easier to interact with the photographs. What do you think of the video so far, Moshi? Really? Uh-huh. In terms of what's delivered on the course, it's very much based around a socio-ecological model. So looking at how we have relationships with ourselves, significant people, family members, right up to looking at community engagement and engagement with society. So I would say that the material is structured around these 4 areas, but week by week we build on the exploration. So in the initial stages of the course, we very much look at using photographs as a tool to introduce ourselves, as a form of communication, and look at that engagement. So participants are encouraged to upload 4 photographs that just say something about who they are, that tell a little background story about who they are. We then move into looking at the self, and we do use self-portraits, and what I'll do is I'll illustrate some of these examples by using some of my own photographs because I don't want to breach copyright of any of the participants. So in the self-portrait experience, we encourage people to think about something that they like about themselves, something that they think that they're good at, and encapsulate this in an image. So it doesn't need to be a head and shoulders shot. You can see in my example, I've used a head and shoulders shot, but what I did here was talked about my love of being outdoors, my love of the river. The reason I took the photograph was to send back to my family, so it was to underpin the love of my family. But also we discussed about why I'd made it a black and white photograph, and whether that distances yourself from the image a little bit by taking the colour out of it. So it just generates some interesting discussion, and every participant does this, so it generates lots of different individual discussions depending on how somebody's taken the photograph and what they've said about themselves. After that, we start to look at still around about the image of the self, but looking at relationships as well. So in the next examples, the exercise that these are taken from is how I see myself and how others see me. So in this first photograph, it's actually a photograph of my son, I talk about how I still feel young, even though I'm aware that I'm aging, but inside I still feel like a child. I still sometimes feel like I'm pretending to know what I'm doing and trying to deceive other people in being an adult. And in the second image, I talk about my academic persona, kind of how I'm maybe perceived by my students as being this sort of font of knowledge, where actually I don't feel I am. I still feel that I'm learning a lot myself. And again, really interesting perceptions from people who upload their images and share this knowledge. The final image there is from an exercise called A Day in the Life of, and really it's almost like a documentary exercise where you take a series of photographs to illustrate what your life is like in a typical day. So here's some of my examples. You've got my dog, you've got my love of sport. So it's really up to you about what you capture in the photograph. And we then go into, as well as discussing the photographs, we go into the theories behind the images. So these are just 3 very brief exercises. There's a number of other exercises. So some of the theories that we'll look at will be around about Erickson's 8 stages of development and how these link to our use of photographs and what we show in photographs and what we share in photographs. We look at attachment theory and how you can link that to the exploration of relationships within the photograph, but also how people use photographs in terms of the areas of control that they might want to exhibit based on their attachment styles. We look at narrative therapy or narrative approaches in terms of problematizing areas and externalizing things in an image so that it makes it safer to speak about. So those are just 3 very quick examples. We talk about Freirean approaches of empowerment and how you can work with minority communities or people who typically find it difficult to speak and verbalise about issues, and how a photograph can help them kind of really crystallise what the issue is and share that issue with other people. So as I say, there's a number of different theories we look at throughout the exercises, and it's not to make people experts of these, it's to make people aware of the theoretic underpinning as to how you can relate these exercises and these experiences if you're facilitating groups.
Walkies. Come on. Let's go.
So running an online course does have its challenges. Given it's a 12-week course, it's quite a serious chunk of time to commit to, and you are reliant on people logging on and looking at the material in their own time. But because I don't run it in real time, so the lectures aren't scheduled to run at a certain time, people can go in when they want to, and I suppose that is an advantage. But it's also reliant on people contributing to the discussion areas, so uploading photographs and adding comments to other people's photographs and discussions. So you are reliant on them doing that, and you don't get that immediate real-time interaction. So it tends to be at a slower pace. Because you're relying on writing, comments and discussions, you've also got the issues of language barriers as well. However, I've never really found that to be a significant problem, because as you apply for the course, we obviously look at language skills as well. And part of the joy of using photographs is to communicate through the image as well. So those would be some of the challenges around interacting with the course online. Online teaching also brings opportunities as well. The reach is incredible. You know, I'm now working or helping people learn about the technique from all over the world, which is great, and something that 4 or 5 years ago I wouldn't have seen possible through the CPD course that I was running. So the online forum is great. There's also scope to develop what I'm doing as well. Really, I feel that the whole technique is in its infancy of using the online forum. So there's certainly areas that I would like to develop. I think one of the things that I've noticed as a big advantage from doing it online the way I'm doing it is that there's a real track of the progression of each student, because all the material that we use is contained within the discussion zones. The students can access those areas whenever they want to and look at how their knowledge has grown and developed through the photographs and through the discussions. And it's also something that we use for the assignment as well. We look at the photographs and we look at the content of the discussions to inform how the photographs were used. So that's been a real big advantage. The other main advantage, of course, is for the students. The students can study in their own time, in their own homes, at their own pace, and you can study in your pants if you want to, but I can assure you I definitely wear clothes when I teach. The feedback I've had from the students who have participated in the course has been really great and positive, and that's heartening because that was really why the course was created, to give people the skills and knowledge to be able to take these techniques and use them in their own practice. And I get feedback from students who've been through the course about how they're currently using these skills, which is really great to hear, really positive. But I do think that I've only just scratched the surface of the potential of teaching therapeutic photography online. Now this is a 30 credit module, and excuse me, let's hit this ball. And I think there's potential to develop this into something much more academically credible. And that's not to take away from what's being delivered at the moment, but I do think that there's potential to look at a postgraduate certificate so that those with an existing degree can build on their existing skills and have this academic credit or postgraduate certificate. Now, what that would involve is maybe looking more at whether more depth and detail need to be given about the areas of exploration that are currently being used on the course in therapeutic photography, or whether I need to look at partnering with other institutions or other departments to look at the sociological, the psychological perspectives of this tool. So I think that there's scope there to look at something a little bit stronger in weighting. There is, of course, an excellent book on the subject too, which is based around the themes introduced by the course, and it's so engrossing that even my 4-year-old can't put it down.
Well, it's amazing.
Oh, thanks. Anything else to add?
No, the end.